It's time to slow everything down now. Take a breath, soft and deep, in through your nose. Hold it for a gentle moment and let it go. Like a wave pulling away from the shore. Again, breathing in, calm and quiet, and breathing out, like the sigh of a breeze slipping through the trees. Let your body grow heavy, safe, supported. Feel the warmth of your bed like a soft pelt wrapped around your shoulders. And imagine a hearth nearby, its amber firelight flickering against wooden walls. A low crackling sound, steady and ancient, the smell of pine resin and toasted grain lingering in the air. You are safe here. There's nothing to do now but drift. And listen, let your thoughts float like ships on still water, and allow my voice to guide you to somewhere far away in both time and memory. Our story tonight sets sail in the age of longships and storm-born warriors, where wind whipped through braided hair and snowflakes caught in the furs of proud shield maidens and brooding jarl. Tonight, we step into the warm, hidden world behind the mythos secret, sensual lives of the Vikings. Not the raids, but the stolen glances beside roaring fires, the deep stirrings within longhouses when the world outside slept under frozen skies, and how love raw, wild, and tender bloomed in the lands of frost and Chapter 1. The hearth of desire. Our tale begins in the heart of a longhouse. Picture it now. Heavy timbers curved overhead like the ribs of a sea creature turned to shelter. Inside, the air is thick with warmth, the heat of bodies, and the fire pit in the center, its light dancing on carved beams. Smoke curls toward a hole in the roof, but not before it perfumes the space with the smell of meat. The fjords are locked in ice, and the wind shrieks like a jealous ghost through the pine forests. But in here, the hush is slow and golden. Lying on pelts near the back of the longhouse is Frades, tall, with calloused hands, and a braid, thick as rope, spilling across her shoulder. Her tunic is open just slightly at the throat, showing the bone and silver necklace given to her by a lover, one who did not return from the Frankish coast. She stares into the fire with eyes the color of storm clouds. A horn of honeyed mead rests by her thigh. And across the fire, watching her with a gaze as quiet as it is hungry, sits Eirik. He is not like the others, not broad and boastful. He is slender, quick, clever. His hands are ink-stained from runes and records, and his mind knows more than axes ever could. But his eyes are sharp, and they have long followed Frades from shadow to glow. They do not speak. Not yet. For in the Viking world, desire often begins in silence. In the clink of shared tools, in a glance held too long, while carving wood or dressing wounds. In Viking life, love and S3X were not hidden in shame. They were folded into daily life like salt in bread, an essential heat to survive the cold. Men and women alike had power in the dance of desire, and strength was as much about tenderness as it was about battle. Now, Eirik rises. His movements are smooth, deliberate. The way one approaches a creature both wild and noble. He kneels beside her, and they speak at last soft words, thick with tension. Not about love, but about the storm outside. About the way wolves have come down from the hills. About whether spring will be early this year. But their eyes say other things. And when their hands touch over the rim of the mead horn, it is with a spark older than fire. As you lie here, warm and relaxed, let your thoughts drift deeper, because the truth of Viking love is far more tender than most ever knew. Their society allowed divorcees, even for women. If a husband mistreated his wife, she could leave, keep her dowry, and find another who respected her more. And women could own land. They could speak in assemblies. They could take lovers if their marriage had grown cold. Love was not just a binding duty. It was a choice, rekindled by warmth and respect. And the Vikings believed that S3X, like combat, required skill, finesse. They even had spells for love. Whispers over carved runes, left beneath beds or tucked inside boots. Honey mixed with ash and whispered into mead. Not all magic was for war. Some of it was for longing. And as Eirik and Freyti speak into the fire, their bodies begin to lean closer. Just that slow, ancient rhythm of two souls aligning, like stars drawing into constellation. They speak of old stories of sea serpents and gods who shape-shifted for love. Freyti laughs, and it is the first time she has laughed this whole dark season. Eirik watches her as if he's memorizing the sound, and she touches his face, not because she has to, but because in that moment, her hands remember what it's like to feel something real. Outside, the wind howls again. But in here, there is only warmth, and perhaps a kiss. The bonds beneath fur and flame, the air in the longhouse thickens. Not from the smoke, but from something wordless hanging between Fratis and Eirik. The soft hush of two breaths blending. The light shuffle of pelts shifting under subtle movements. He is careful with her, not from fear, but respect. In the Viking heart, a woman was not owned. She chose, and she had chosen to stay here tonight. Beside him, Eirik leans back slightly, offering her space, not pressing, not demanding. That, too, is part of the Viking way, to earn passion, not to seize it. Freyti watches the firelight reflect off the bronze rivets of his tunic. There's warmth in his voice, and something gentler than she'd felt in a long time. Her body remembers. Not just the ache of battle, but the hunger of skin, missing skin. Outside, snow falls, a gentle hush-like powdered silence. Inside, Frotties shifts closer. Her fingers trace a rune burned into the wooden bench beneath them. It is Jabotha rune of gift and exchange, a fitting symbol for what is unfolding between them. The Viking view of love and flesh in the Norse mind. Physical connection wasn't sinful. It was sacred. A mingling of spirits, not just bodies. They spoke of it plainly, sometimes with laughter, sometimes with longing, never in shame. And their language reflected this. The word for a lover wasn't crude. It meant one who rests beside, someone who shared warmth, and yes, the wild rhythm of skin on skin beneath the pelts when the hearthlight burned low. Both men and women explored intimacy freely before marriage. In fact, it was often encouraged. A trial match, a testing of harmony, of whether two hearts could row the same boat across life's stormy seas. And in the deepest cold of the north, touch wasn't just for pleasure, it was survival. Return to Freydis and Eirik, the night deepens. Others in the longhouse have slipped into sleep. Their quiet snores, layered with the gentle creak of timber. Freydis lowers herself onto the thick pelts beside Eirik. She doesn't speak. Instead, she lifts his hand and places it over her chest. Not to arouse, but to let him feel the slow, steady, a widow's heart, a woman's heart, still open. He kisses her fingers each, one gently. Like reading a saga written in skin. There is no rush. They are Vikings. They know the value of the long game, the slow burn over the quick flame, and so they lie together. Wrapped not just in furs, but in the warmth of choosing, of surrender, of silent permission given. Drift deeper segment. Intimate traditions now. Imagine you are there. Feel the warmth of those furs against your bare legs. The soft press of another body near yours. Not possessive, but protective. Many Viking couples shared wooden bed boxers, built into the walls of the longhouse. They offered privacy, even in a crowded space. Inside, carved symbols adorned the headboards, not just for beauty, but to bless the union, fertility runes, protection spells, love charms tucked in hidden places. It wasn't rare for couples to carve their names together, joined beneath the frame, as if even the wood should remember their bond. They shared salt and honey, a sacred mixture, sweet and enduring, meant to seal not just lips, but souls. Back in the glow, Eirik shifts. His hand finds the small of Freydis's back. Not to claim, but too steady. Her breath quickens slightly, and for a moment, there is only this, the sound of two hearts, sinking, the soft gasp of skin, the heady quiet that comes not from silence, but from full presence. Their bodies speak a forgotten language, one of invitation, of patience, of rising warmth in winter's hold. Outside, the snow deepens. Inside, something ancient awakens, not just lust, but the kind of intimacy forged over shared hardships, cracked shields, and unspoken loneliness. They do not speak the words "I want you." Instead, they live it in how they press forehead to forehead, in how their breath fogs. And as their bodies finally meet beneath the soft shadow of sleeping kin, there is no shame, only sacred rhythm, only ancient fire rekindled, whispers of sleep. As the fire burns low in their world, so too can your mind soften, settle, and surrender. Let yourself feel the quiet crackle of imagined embers, the safe weight of a fur across your chest, the comfort of knowing you are held. Even if only in story, the Vikings knew that pleasure was part of life, not separate from survival, but a reason to keep going through dark winters. Like the snow drifting outside their longhouse, let your body feel heavy, like a ship anchored in still water. And know, this is only the beginning. Beautiful. You're sinking deeper now, into the story, into rest, into the hush of an ancient world that moves gently around you. Let your shoulders drop, your jaw soften, your mind float. As we drift into the third 1,000-word batch of From Longships to Love Beds, the surprising S3X Lives of the Vikings. The fire still glows, and the longhouse whispers on. Chapter 3. Love Beyond the Hearth. Morning doesn't arrive quickly in the north. It slips in slowly. First, as a pale blue glow beyond the timber slats. Then, as slanted light touching the corners of the longhouse. Fjords blinks awake. She lies beneath the firs, bare against Eirik's warmth. His arm draped over her waist. She listens. Not to danger, but to peace. For a Viking woman, peace was a rare and precious thing, more often found in fleeting moments between storms and sea voyages. She simply breathes. Inhale, slow and deep. Exhale, with calm surrender. Eirik stirs and kisses the back of her shoulder. No words yet. Just the language of skin and morning. The day begins. The longhouse begins to wake. A child stirs nearby. A goat bleats softly at the far end of the hall. Someone stokes the hearth. Because the village knows, last night something was rekindled, not just in bodies, but in hearts. Fjords sits up slowly and begins to braid her hair. Each movement is slow, purposeful, meditative. Viking women braided not just for beauty, but for power. To braid was to prepare. To braid was to remember. Eirik watches her in the morning light, his eyes full of quiet awe. Not for her body, but for her strength. They do not speak of love. Vikings rarely did. Instead, they acted it in meals prepared, in swords sharpened for another, in clothes mended, in songs shared under the stars. A pause to drift. You're doing beautifully. Just let your body soften further, like moss beneath snow, like waves easing onto shore. Let's float now, through the folds of time, because Viking love wasn't always soft. Sometimes it was stormy, passionate, fiery, full of mischief. In old Norse poems, lovers bantered like warriors, wits sharpened. Words became foreplay. They used riddles and double meanings, clever lines that hinted at deeper wants. A man might say, "Will you share your roof on this cold night?" But his eyes would be saying, "I want the warmth of your skin more than firewood." And if the woman replied, "Only if you bring kindling worth burning," then the dance had begun. There were courtships, like raids, brief, bold, breathtaking. But there were also love stories as steady as tide in time. Not all Viking bonds were carnal. Some were gentle. Two souls who simply found one another again and again across a lifetime. In shared glances during council, in hands brushing while gutting fish, in the way one always poured the other's mead first. Rituals of the union Fjords and Eirik rise. Today is the feast of a sacred day of offerings and renewal. Villagers gather near the stone ring. Torches flicker in the morning mist, casting shadows across faces both weathered and young. Fjords wears her fur-lined cloak, her silver pendant gleaming above her heart. Eirik stands beside her, not as a boastful conqueror, but as an equal. They say nothing of their night. But the elder woman, Hilga, smiles knowingly. She offers them each a woven cord, dyed red with crushed berries. Braid them, and let the gods decide if your fates belong together. It is not a wedding, not yet. But it is a gesture, a bond of choice. Fjords takes one end. Eirik takes the other, and slowly, just like her morning hair, they braid it. Each twist of the cord echoes a moment. The mead horn, the firelight, the whispered names in darkness. Around them, the village feasts. But they are lost in their rhythm. The rhythm of two threads becoming one. Even in Viking weddings, it was not dominance that bound lovers, but balance. Hand-fasting ceremonies were common, wrapping the couple's wrists together with ribbon. The Norse believed love was a gift from Freya, goddess of beauty, fertility, and war. She wore a cloak of feathers and wept tears of gold. She could stir the deepest desires or calm the fiercest hearts. It was said that when lovers kissed in the snow, Freya's breath warmed the air around them. And so, to marry was not just legal, it was cosmic. Two fates braided beneath the watchful eyes of gods and starlight. Back to the feast, Eirik and Fjords. They tuck it into the folds of her tunic, just near her heart. Not for show, for memory. As they sit beside the fire, Eirik leans close and whispers, "There's no word in our tongue that means forever, but I would raid the years with you." Fjords chuckles. Then sharpen your axe, she replies softly. There's still much left to conquer. They touch foreheads, a Viking kiss. No lips, just breath and warmth, and the hum of something sacred. The snow outside continues to fall, soft, quiet, like the world is tucking itself into sleep. And now, so can you. Take a slow breath now, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Let your mind rest gently against the story, like a long ship drifting into harbor. Sails low. Shield maidens and gentleman days pass like soft-footed wolves across the snow. Freddie and Nyrick do not rush. Each moment between them, each glance, touch, and shared silence, he teaches her old runes, symbols of protection, fertility, pleasure. She shows him how to snare a rabbit in winter, how to feel the shift in wind. That means a storm. At night, they lie together beneath firs, bodies intertwined, not in hunger, but in harmony. Sometimes they speak. Sometimes they simply listen to the creak of timbers, the distant howl of wolves, the breath of another human who stays and chooses to stay again. Whispers of strength. Viking women like Freydis were not mere companions. They were warriors, priestesses. Some sailed the seas. Some carried weapons into battle. Others ruled halls while their husbands fought. And in the realm of love and flesh, they held the same power. Consent was essential. Courtship was mutual. Even within marriage, both partners were expected to honor each other's desires, or part ways. There are records of women divorcing husbands who could not satisfy them, or who failed to bring joy to the hearth. Desire was not duty, it was dance. A flame kindled from shared warmth, not ownership. The secret of the bathhouse. One evening, Freydis leads Eirik away from the longhouse, through snow and evergreen, down a worn path lit by starlight, to a small wooden cabin half buried in the hillside. She pushes open the door. Steam billows out. A Badstofa Viking bathhouse. Inside, the air is warm and rich with the scent of birch and sweetgrass. Stones glow red-hot in a pit. Water hisses as it's ladled over them, filling the space with humid mist. Just the quiet, powerful act of shedding layers to return to something raw and real. Eirik follows. They sit together on the warm bench, skin slick with sweat and steam. She picks up a bundle of birch branches, softly bound, gently soaked. She begins to tap them across his shoulders. Not to punish, but to awaken. Vikings believed in cleansing the body with heat, sweat, touch. It was spiritual, sexual, sacred. Eirik closes his eyes. Each tap, each sweep of her hand, melts away the weight of raids, of winters, of silence. Then he returns the gift. He lifts the branches, and with slow, reverent strokes, he touches her body, not as a conquest. Steam curls around them, the crackle of stones, the soft slap of branch on skin. They are only music. In this space, they are not warrior and scribe, not man and woman. They are simply human, alive, bare, and chosen. Drift deeper segment, the scent of the north now. Close your eyes. Let your breath deepen. Imagine the scent of birch bark, warming over red stones. Feel the steam on your skin, soft, damp, rising from your collarbones like mist over a fjord. In Viking culture, scent mattered. They used herbs and animal fats to perfume the body. They chewed sweet roots to freshen breath. Cleanliness was not a luxury. It was honor. Lovers bathed together not just to tempt, but to tend, to wash away the blood and cold, and welcome pleasure not just in flesh, but in care. Some bathed before union. Some shared quiet songs while drying each other with woolen cloth, touch in all its forms, and safe. Back to the bathhouse. Eirik runs his hands through Freydis's damp braid, but her edges, she turns toward him, forehead to forehead once more. It is always how they begin and end, not lips, not mouths. Oh. He whispers something into her ear, a phrase she's never heard before. A line from a dream he once had when he was a boy watching the sea and wishing for something more than blood and steel. Freydis smiles. She stands, wraps a fur around her body, and steps out into the snow. The snow kisses her feet. She turns back to him and says, "Only not to the longhouse, but to her hall, the one she built with her own inheritance, the one waiting beyond the pine ridge, a home of her own, a life she crafted, and she is offering him a place there, not because she needs him, but because she wants him." Eirik follows without a word, not as a warrior follows his leader, but as a man follows warmth in a world of winter. You are doing so well. Let your limbs relax even more. Let your mind rock gently in this ocean of sound and story. The Vikings' new love was many things, wild, soft, fleeting. It could come on a battlefield, or over steaming stones in a hidden bath. Let your breath slow, soft, and deep, as we prepare to drift on. Soft and deep. As we prepare to drift on, you're floating, peacefully now, cradled in story, wrapped in fur, and drifting like a long ship on calm water beneath moonlight. Your breath is steady, your thoughts are soft, and the world around you fades gently into the hush of ancient love. Let's continue with the fifth 1,000-word batch of From Longships to Lovebeds. The snow falls, and something sacred blooms in silence. Chapter 5. A home carved in winter. The path to Freydis's hall winds, between trees, cloaked in snow. Their branches like pale fingers brushing the sky. They walk without speaking. No words are needed. The snow muffles their steps, each footfall a whisper, each breath a shared fog between them. When they reach her home, Eirik sees it is not just a shelter, but a sanctuary, a longhouse smaller than the villages, but adorned with carved doorposts, painted beams, and wind chimes made from bone and amber. Inside, the hearth is already lit, a small fire, but warm and familiar. This space is hers, filled with woven cloth, dyed with herbs, and a bed tucked against the wall, layered with furs and soft spun linen. She places her hand on his chest and simply says, "Rest." And so, the language of rest, not all Viking intimacy was fire and urgency. Much of it was slow, layered in rituals of care. After love, a shared meal, a slice of smoked fish, a piece of rye bread dipped in warm broth, a curl of cheese folded by hand. After touch, grooming running fingers through one another's hair, braiding it slowly, as if each strand carried meaning. And after all of it, rest. Not apart, but entangled. Viking bedding was wide, made not for just sleep, but for stories told in whispers, for healing wounds with shared silence. Eirik lies beside her now. He runs his thumb along the scar at her collarbone. She does not flinch. She lets him learn her map. And when he shows her the burn on his ribs, earned in a fire years before, she places her mouth over it, soft and slow, as if rewriting the pain with warmth. Drift deeper. Segment. The unspoken vows. Relax now. Let your jaw slacken. Your shoulders fall heavier. Your belly soften like quiet snow. Because in the Viking world, vows weren't always made before gods. Sometimes they were made like this, in the dark, with bare skin pressed to bare skin, with hands tracing hidden places, and hearts thudding steady beneath the cold sky. There were no rings, but there were gifts. A bracelet traded, a carving placed beneath a pillow, a single strand of hair braided into a lover's cloak, a way of saying, "I am yours." Not because I must be, but because I choose it again and again. Love in layers over the coming days. Fjords and Eirik settle into a rhythm. They tend the goats together. He gathers kindling while she scrapes hides. At night, they speak of dreams. Not just the soft ones, but the sharp ones too. He tells her of the time he nearly drowned on a voyage to Dublin. She tells him how she watched her younger brother die in a raid. How she held his hand and sang until his last breath passed into hers. They don't touch. But later, when the fire is low and their bodies find each other again, there is something deeper in the way they move. Something reverent. Not just lust, but recognition. A remembering. The power of the shield one morning. Fjords places a round shield in Eirik's hands. It is hers. The edge bears the nick of an axe. The center. A splash of dried blood. She says, "This saved me once, and now I give it to you." He doesn't ask why, but he knows. To give another your shield in Viking culture was an act of devotion. It meant trust. It meant, I offer you protection, and I ask for none in return. He kneels and presses his forehead to it. It is a vow, unspoken. They make no announcement to the village, no feast. But in that moment, before the gods, before the wind, before the stillness of frost-touched pine, drift deeper segment. The sacredness of consent. Let your breath slow again, soft and sweet. Let your hips sink deeper into the mattress. Let your spine feel long. Support it. The Vikings understood something rare for their time. That passion without consent was not honored. That pleasure should always be mutual. They believed in a kind of spiritual weaving, where threads of fate, desire, and respect were stitched together. Women could say yes, women could say no, and both were sacred. They spoke openly of what they liked, what made them sing, what made them melt. There were poems, even spells, to bring delight, not just for one, but for both. Because when two people met, fully willing, fully open, it was said the gods themselves stopped to watch. Under the wolf moon, the night of the wolf moon arrives. It is the coldest night of the year. The stars are hard and white. The fjord is frozen to glass. Inside the hall, Freddys and Eirik wrap themselves in wolf pelts. They lie on the bed, naked, beneath layers of warmth, speaking in whispers. He says, "You are fire to me." She replies, "And you are stillness." And with those words, they move together, slow, deliberate. Every touch, a blessing. Every kiss, a pact. Not rushed, not primal, but endless. A rhythm like tide and breath, like history and heartbeat. The fire, a dull glow beside them, and above, the moon watches, round, silent, eternal. Let your thoughts now settle like snow. Let your body stretch long and loose beneath the stars of this story. Feel the breath of wolves in the dark. Feel the softness of fur. Time moves differently in the north. Seasons arrive not by calendar, but by scent, melted ice, pine needles. And now, the first thaw begins. Tiny streams form along the rocks outside Fjords Hall. Moss begins to green. And with them comes the Spring Fire Festival. It is a time of fertility, of renewal, of sowing both seed and desire. The villagers light bonfires across the hills. Flames rise into the dusk sky, flickering orange and gold, mirroring the fires. The festival of flesh and fire, Eric and Frates walk hand in hand toward the main hill. Around them, couples old and new gather beneath flowering branches. Drums beat slow, a low, steady rhythm, not a war drum, but a pulse. A priestess raises her arms and calls to Freya, goddess of lust, of longing. Tonight, she chants. We do not conquer, we open. Then, without shame, the couples begin to dance, slow, swaying. Some kiss in the open, some drift off into the woods, laughter trailing behind like ribbons. The ancient rite Fredes takes Eirik's hand, not to pull him into the forest, but to the stone altar near the fire ring. There, she paints his chest with red ochre spirals and lines, runes of union and blooming. He does the same to her, marking her skin in delicate strokes, circles drawn around her hips, symbols for earth and woman. It is not obscene, it is sacred. Art made from flesh, worship without shame. Then they press their foreheads together. Again, as they always do, the first and final touch of their love. And they whisper the old words, I see you, I hold you, feel the pulse of something ancient, moving gently through your veins. Time moves differently in the north. Seasons arrive not by calendar, but by scent, melted ice, pine needles, fertile soil. And now, the first thaw begins. Tiny streams form along the rocks outside Freydis's hall. Moss begins to green. And with them comes the Spring Fire Festival. It is a time of fertility, of renewal, of sowing both seed and desire. The villagers light bonfires across the hills. Flames rise into the dusk sky, flickering orange and gold, mirroring the fires stirring within. The festival of flesh and fire, Eric and Freydis walk hand in hand toward the main hill. Around them, couples old and new gather beneath flowering branches. Drums, a low, steady rhythm, not a war drum, but a pulse. A priestess raises her arms and calls to Freya, goddess of lust, of longing. Tonight, she chants. We do not conquer, we open. Then, without shame, the couples begin to dance, slow, swaying. Some kiss in the open, some drift off into the woods, laughter trailing behind like ribbons. The ancient rite Fredes takes Eirik's hand, not to pull him into the forest, but to the stone altar near the fire ring. There, she paints his chest with red ochre spirals and lines, runes of union and blooming. He does the same to her, marking her skin in delicate strokes, circles drawn around her hips, symbols for earth and woman. It is not obscene, it is sacred. Art made from flesh, worship without shame. Then they press their foreheads together, again, as they always do. The first and final touch of their love. And they whisper the old words, I see you. I choose you. I hold you. Drift deeper, segment. Fertility without shame. Let your body soften. Let your mind drift, warm and slow, into the folds of ancient tradition. In Norse life, fertility wasn't just about childbirth. It was about joy. About the joy of union, of bloom, of release, of laughter behind haylofts, and kisses beneath starlight. They believed the body was a gift, not a prison, and pleasure. A ritual. A shared language written in breath, in rhythm. To plant love like seeds and let it grow wild. Later, beneath the sky, Fjords and Eirik lie on a blanket near the fire, naked, painted, glowing with warmth. They make love slowly, with the sound of crackling flames all around, and the stars blinking above like ancient eyes watching. He kisses her inner wrist, then the inside of her thigh, then the hollow of her throat. She runs her hands along his back, reading his spine like a runed stone, feeling every story he carries there. Their bodies speak of hunger, yes, but more of belonging. When they finish, they don't speak. They curl together, the sweat on their skin cooling like morning dew. Around them, others rest too. A village, not hiding, but celebrating the raw beauty of union. Love beyond the body. As spring deepens, Eirik begins to carve a gift. A box. He shapes it with care, etching the sides with images. A fire. A longship. A feather from a raven that landed on their roof. A piece of his old Rytinga verse he once wrote about longing for home, and he gives it to her without flourish. She opens it slowly, reads it, smiles, and then kisses his palm in reply. This, too, is love. The quiet love. The kind that lingers long after flesh has cooled. Drift deeper, Segma. Gifting the heart, let yourself feel still now. Let your hands rest open beside you. Let your belly expand with each breath, like a field swelling with new growth. The Vikings gave tokens, not roses, not chocolates, but what mattered. A comb carved from bone, a single button from a beloved's cloak. To give something personal, to say, I thought of you while the world turned, was the most erotic act of all. Because it meant, even when apart, you were held in their thoughts, you were remembered. You were chosen. A song in the hall, one final scene before the fire dies down tonight. Eirik stands in the center of Fjords' hall. He holds a lyre, strings pulled taut, voice low and steady. He sings a song of their love, but not in a grand or showy way. It is quiet. A lullaby, almost. about a woman who wore wolfskin and a man who read her bones like poetry. Fjords listens with wet eyes. She says nothing, only walks to him, takes the lyre, and kisses his chest. Not with fire this time, but with rain, with peace. Then they lie together and sleep. And now you too can sleep. Let your breath ease into rhythm with the night. Let your limbs feel full and heavy. You've walked through snow, through desire, through stories once whispered in the dark. The fire burns low now, and the hall is quiet. The morning after forever spring leans into summer. The ice has melted from the fjord, and the sky now glows pink. Well past midnight, Fjords' hall is green with life, wildflowers on the windowsill. Eirik sits beside the hearth, carving again. Not weapons, not a shield, but a cradle. Fjords enters quietly, carrying a bundle of herbs and a smile only he sees. She places a hand on his shoulder and says, "You know it may not be time yet." Eirik doesn't stop carving. "I know," he whispers, "but I want it ready. For when it is," she kneels beside him. And together they sand the wood smooth. The quiet kind of intimacy. Not all Viking love was in passion. Some of it was in preparation, in care, in choosing again, day after day. Fjords and Eirik no longer rush toward one another in firelight. Now they reach out slowly, a brush of fingers, when passing tools, a shared look across the fire, a long hug before sleep. And yet, when they come together in bed, it is deeper now. Less about heat, more about trust. The kind of touch that says, "You are home." Drift deeper segment. The long love. Now let your body be still. Let your mind float in warm silence. You've felt the first sparks of passion. Now feel the embers, those that glow slow and red in the heart, that never go out, even when wind blows cold. In Norse tales, there are two kinds of lovers. The ones who burn bright and fast, and the ones who become myth. Their union is in memory, in laughter, in the work of life shared. That is the kind of love Fjords and Eirik no share. It is not shouted. It is spoken through touch, gesture, breath, ritual of the first harvest when the barley ripens. The village holds its first harvest feast. Fjords and Eirik arrive hand in hand. She wears his carved brooch at her throat. It is the small signs the villagers notice, and nod at, and smile. During the feast, couples are invited to step forward and bless the grain. Together. It is a symbolic ritual. One by one, couples placed hands on the gathered barley and whisper a shared promise. When it is Fjords and Eirik's turn, they do not speak aloud. They simply press their palms to the sheaf and close their eyes. Later, when alone, Eirik will tell her what he whispered May we be like the land, weathered, rooted, fading light, growing life that night. Beneath soft linen and clean skin, they make love with unhurried joy. Her belly, not yet round, rests gently beneath his hand. They are not making life, they are making meaning. Each kiss, each sigh, a hymn. They fall asleep not holding each other, but touching still. Her hand on his arm, his ankle brushing hers. And the cradle sits in the corner, waiting quietly. Drift deeper segment, touch as prayer. Let your body melt now. Sink fully into your sheets. Let go of every single place you're holding tension. In Viking life, touch was not only for desire, it was medicine. It was blessing. It was prayer. To touch someone's back while they worked. To braid their hair slowly after a bath. To rub oils into sore shoulders. To lie side by side in silence. These were holy acts. To know someone's body, its strength, its scars, its secret joys, was to know their soul. The closeness, the stillness of being held, even in your mind. The final ember months pass. Fjords gives birth on the first snow of winter. Eirik is there, holding her hand, chanting the old words into her ear. The babe comes quickly. A girl with Fjords' eyes and Eirik's quiet mouth. They name her Victory Rune. At night, they take turns holding her, sometimes in silence, sometimes singing the same lullaby he once sang in the longhouse when their love was new. Now it is older, but no less sacred. And as they lie together in the hush of the hall, child between them, snow falling outside like soft ash from the gods. This is love. Not in spite of the battles, the scars, the grief, but because of them. Because they chose to stay, to touch, to see. Let your breath ease out now, like winds slipping across the sea. You are safe. You are warm. And the longhouse is quiet again. The pillow talk of gods in the stillest moments of night, when even the dogs are curled at their master's feet. Fjords speaks into the quiet. Do you think the gods love? Eirik stirs beside her, not with surprise, but with knowing. She asks this, sometimes, always, at the edge of sleep. Always as if it were the most important question in the world. He turns his face to hers, eyes open but soft with shadow. I think they envy us, he says. Why? Because we get to love, knowing it ends. The Viking view of desire to the Norse, love was not only a comfort, it was a choice. A gamble, a sword to the ribs and a kiss to the mouth. Gods like Freya wept tears of gold for lost lovers. Odin gave his eye for wisdom, but even he sought companionship in the mortal realm. Viking sagas speak more often of longing than triumph, because they understood desire makes mortals divine, and connection, not conquest, was the ultimate act of courage. Drift deeper segment. The quietest room now hush. Feel the softness of your bed beneath you. Feel the weight of your body ease into the quiet. Imagine a hall with thick wooden walls, furs on the floor, and firelight licking gently at stone. In this room, you are safe. You are held. You are in the company of those who have chosen you again and again. In Viking homes, there were no separate bedrooms, but there were curtains, tapestries, nooks in the beams, places where lovers could whisper, hide, be known without being watched. This is your place now. A private hollow of safety and soft breath. Let go here? Let sleep begin to unfurl. Legacy and love, Freydis and Eirik grow older. The cradle becomes a seat, then a small chest holding S' first comb, her first bracelet, a rune carved with her name. But when they do, it is with reverence. Sometimes he washes her feet. Sometimes she oils the scars on his back. Always, they fall asleep, touching, and when one wakes before the other, they do not move. They listen to breath, to wind, to memory. The final embrace in their last winter. Freydis. Eirik carries her to the hearth, wraps her in every pelt they own. He feeds her broth. He sings her songs. One night, when snow howls at the windows, she opens her eyes and whispers, I still want you. And though his bones ache, he climbs into the bed beside her, wraps her close, holds her until her breath evens. That night, they make love. One last time. Slow, certain. Drift deeper segment. You were there too. You are almost asleep now. But hear this last truth. You were there. You've been on that fur-lined bench. You've watched the snow melt on the sill. You've held hands by candlelight and whispered promises into the dark. In some life, in some echo of self, you have known love like this. Ancient, rough, sacred. Let it live in your chest now. A flickering warmth, even as dreams take you. You are part of the long line of love. The thread that ties hands across centuries. That speaks in sighs and warmth and touch. Epilogue. The rune that remains years later. A traveler enters the village. He finds an old longhouse, empty but clean. There are tapestries on the wall, a cradle tucked in a corner, and a rune carved into the center beam. He runs his fingers over it. It reads simply, "We chose." And chose again, and so we lived. He smiles, steps back, and lets the door close quietly behind him. The longhouse sleeps. But the love that never ends. Softest sleep segment. Good night. Brave heart, your mind is soft, floating, free. Let go. You've traveled far through fire, through winter, through memory. And now you return to yourself. You are safe. You are cherished. And somewhere deep in your being, a Viking lover still whispers, I choose you. Always, good night. Rest well, and may you dream of fjords, of firs, and of a love that echoes through the ages.